It's a basic suggestion. I don't know necessarily that, and let me also say that my preference for any action of the ordinance committee related to the in-family conveyance question be presented in writing with everybody having the opportunity to understand it and then be voted on. But while you all are looking at that and thinking on that, let me just say that the Woodford County Ag Extension budget, which is to be accepted into the record, is before you. Is there a motion to recommend same for acceptance into the record? That'd be the Ag Extension budget.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Squire Taylor, second by Squire Varner. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. And that motion carries. Madam Clerk will have that to accept into the record. If there are no objections, we will entertain motions to set the deputy coroner salaries in accordance with the salary increases as submitted in the budget, and the same for the assistant county attorneys. Are there any objections to handling that in the full fiscal court as presented? Seeing none, that's how we will handle that. We do have the animal control budget before you. I'll have Supervisor Katner present that at some point in time. But any of these budgets that you have questions, I would encourage you to meet with the department head or call them and discuss any of the questions that you have. And then, so a couple things that I need to prepare you all for in court. So, number one, for the items of flood response and recovery, I've issued an executive order as of today to exempt flooded areas from some of the zoning requirements relating to demolition, renovation, and rebuilding. I want to thank Director Steve Hunter of the Planning Commission for working through those opportunities. In many communities, there's what's called a force majeure or act of God clause, which says that if there are natural disasters such as these, that some of the requirements in ordinance are suspended or exempted. And so my recommendation is the full fiscal court to exempt those as I have in the executive order. So they are currently exempted. And we have people coming in and asking for this sort of permitting already. Two things that are of extreme importance, and I'll clarify this in the meeting as well. But number one, safety and welfare of everybody involved in that process is paramount. It will be overriding and supersede any determination that is required to be made will be made with the utmost focus on safety and the welfare of inhabitants, guests, invitees on any premises that we would exempt the local ordinances. The second thing is we would exempt any local floodplain ordinance so far as it does not impact the floodplain program, which allows folks to have a flood insurance program. So the executive order and the proposed emergency order that I'll present to the court reflects those two things in specificity and detail. We also ask that the Planning Commission keep a good record of any properties that are being exempted so that we have those records in case it ever is any sort of impact or have any need for that. And as part of that, I said if there's any additional cost or financial burden or personnel burden associated with tracking those expenses, that the fiscal court would be called upon to potentially assist, but either financially or otherwise, to help so that that burden is not borne by the current budget of the Planning Commission or the future budget. I want to make sure that, you know, this would be part of our emergency response as well, so we would have that taken care of. I also have a resolution to establish the Woodford County Flood Survivors Relief program, which will allow us through the Woodford Foundation to direct spending of the funds. I'm going to have that for your all's review. Ideally, I would have had that for action tonight, but I'm going to let you all review it and make sure you're very comfortable with it and have any questions. But I would anticipate, frankly, if we already had an emergency declaration from the federal government, I would go ahead and act upon this tonight because we would know what people need and how their needs are being served. But since we don't have that and that is uncertain, I'm going to leave that for our next meeting, which is 3 weeks away. There could be a reason to call us into a special meeting or otherwise to address that, but I don't anticipate that at this point. But it would be a resolution to create the fund, a supplemental resolution to address temporary housing and other emergency needs. And then the last item that I'm going to discuss with you all is payment of contractors that are assisting or have assisted with flood cleanup. And so during the flood, we employed several local contractors to assist in debris removal, loading, and hauling. So folks brought down skid steers and other equipment to load dumpsters, dump trailers, and dump trucks. Some of that still be going on today. Some of these folks have been extremely busy working through the holiday weekend. I've allowed them a little leniency in getting their invoices for us to be paid. But I need some authority to make sure that we pay them timely with a 3-week period in between court, and some of those folks starting as far back as Wednesday of last week. Then I need to really make sure that we're getting these folks paid for the work that they're doing. And I will have that information to you, but I will probably need some sort of recommendation that we allow either email approval or some other approval for those as we go forward. And I may have some additional information to you prior to court. So is there a motion to recommend to the full fiscal court from the Budget and Finance Committee that we expedite the payment to contractors who have assisted with the flood cleanup?
Judge, I have a question for Drew, if that's okay.
Yes, you're more than welcome.
Drew, would this be possibly reimbursed through the FEMA if we get some assistance back from FEMA?
Would it be eligible?
Eligible.
There's no obvious rule that would prevent us. We would obviously need to work with the foundation to make sure that they're creating a criteria that makes it achievable for everybody that's affected.
So, Drew, we're talking about the debris removal contractors.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Yes. So debris itself is considered a Category A expense, which is 100% reimbursable with proper documentation. I'm sorry, Judge. I got my wires crossed.
I'm moving quickly because we got some other things on the agenda.
Clarification.
Yes, and we have today, 2 of the local businesses have submitted bills to us. Obviously, they've missed tonight's bill list, but we'll get them processed as quickly as the system will allow.
Yes, and so that's a good question, Squire Varner, and it should be an eligible expense. All things the same. Hopefully, we'll get an emergency declaration, and that won't be any sort of issue.
And debris is a little bit of an ambiguous term, right? It's appliances, it's vegetative debris, it's mud that has to be cleared off the roads to make them safe for normal vehicles to travel on. So the county fire department would be eligible for some debris reimbursement as well for the work that they're doing.
And I'll go into this a little bit more detail, but we had several local contractors come down and donate time. And then when we saw the massive amount of lifting that we needed to do, we decided to begin to employ people under the supervision of the maintenance department, the road department, and emergency management. And I can say that all of the contractors did a tremendous job. They really did. But we'll have that information for you all. You'll get to see all the details before any request is made. Okay. But I do want to have a motion to recommend that we expedite the payment of these contractors so that under an emergency we can do things we can't normally do. We could expedite this these contracts for payment regardless. But I think it's particularly important that these folks have, in some cases, put aside some of their regular business and helped us, so I want to get them paid. Right now, we're pretty much at a standstill. We don't know if we'll need additional assistance with paid contractors, but I would like to get us caught up to the point where we're all on the same page.
So moved.
Motion by Squire Varner, second by Squire Carl. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that motion does carry. Okay, I'm going to return back to the possibility of going into ordinance committee to discuss the zoning text amendments and any other proposals. So is there a preference or a request that we go into the ordinance committee to discuss this at this point in time, Squire Gill?
Yeah, I'd prefer that we do that.
All right, we will, I will deem the meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee adjourned, and we're going to, we are over our allotted time, and we do have the special meeting for our nonprofits. And so let me do this. I'll call to order the the ordinance committee. And I will immediately call us into recess. We are now recessed as the ordinance committee. And I would ask that we reconvene in a committee of the whole for the presentation of the nonprofits as set forth. So those in our nonprofits who are here to present, please approach the podium, and the floor is yours. I can go ahead and say we have Cole Granis from the YEP program.
Just have some handouts here for you. Made by the one and only Laurel Hostetter. She couldn't be here tonight. She's taking care of a sick little one, so I will do my best in her stead.
Voice doesn't really carry anymore. Well, I was saying just thank you for having us. We always enjoy going any place to speak, especially about our nonprofits in Woodford County. I see that the court is busy just from my brief time here, so really do appreciate it. All we really wanted this to be was just an introduction. So Laurel Hostetter and myself, my name's Cole Granis. I work with the Woodford County Health Department. We chair the nonprofit roundtable that's run out of the Chamber of Commerce here in Woodford County, and it's essentially just a collection of the nonprofits that exist in Woodford County. It's been in operation for quite some time, but over the last 2 years, we have kind of tried to focus it a little bit more. Essentially, we felt that all the nonprofits were a little bit too siloed, and that they needed to come together and have more common purpose, and maybe that would allow all ships to rise, so to speak. So that's really what we've been trying to do. The Chamber has been a great partner to us in doing that. We've created an annual plan for this year that we're trying to stick to because we want to provide some continuity of service to our nonprofits in Woodford County. And essentially what we had on the docket for this month was going and reaching out to government bodies. We spoke with the city council. We're just going to speak with the city council in Midway, but we wanted to make sure that we stopped by the fiscal court to let everyone know that we do exist and the work that we're doing. And Laurel, never missing an opportunity to show how creative she is, thought a handout would be beneficial. So Yeah, if you look on there, any nonprofit in Woodford County is eligible. Even a nonprofit that's just serving Woodford Countyans. We know CASA, who's based out of Lexington. They have representation here. They are part of our roundtable at the chamber. Habitat is also part of our work at the chamber on the roundtable. So anyone in Woodford County or serving Woodford County is eligible to attend those meetings, and the public is more than welcome to attend as well. We always welcome guests. We want, to get the word out about the programs and services that our nonprofits are providing. We also want to get the word out on needs that they have, and we want, people to just know that this work is being done, and there's big hearts behind it. There's a lot of people that are working day and night for the betterment of the county, and I'm sure that you all have had a lot of experience with that over the last few weeks. I mean, with flood relief and everything like that. So what I would say is the big thing for us right now we're learning is just coordination, and I'm sure you're familiar with that as well, but coordination of resources and services and personnel, especially within the county, towards like these big ticket problems like transportation and food insecurity and neglect and abandonment and just the things that we know are issues. We know are issues, and we need some coordinated effort to move towards them. So yeah, I mean, that's basically what we wanted to talk about, and just let everyone know that we're around. And we meet first Thursday of every month normally, but you can check the Chamber's website. All of our meetings are on there. Their calendar helps us stay current. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to speak to our nonprofit work in the county.
Thank you, Cole. And,
Yeah.
The goal of coordinating and increasing communication, particularly within nonprofits in our community, has been something that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that we're at a point where this initiative and effort is achieving that long-standing goal.
Yeah.
And I think that your all's ask and your all's specific plan is for a May 8th meeting at 9:30 a.m. And is that at the chamber?
So we have our May 8th meeting that will discuss like annual planning. It's more of a training for our nonprofits who have not traditionally done annual planning for their organizations. Laurel Hostetter is actually the one who's going to be presenting on that. We have a few other guest speakers coming that day, but essentially we're trying to provide resources for the areas in which our nonprofits feel that they are lacking or that they are weak. We know that grant training is a big part of that. We know that we need more grant training, especially given the climate now. Grant opportunities may become more sparing, so we have to make sure that we're kind of up to the task of applying for whatever is available that fits in our niche, whatever area of service we're providing. So yeah, we are definitely trying. These 3 dates down at the bottom are just our next upcoming meetings over the next 3 months, when they're going to be happening. Yeah, our focus on need is basically just community coordination and making sure that the services get where they need to go and that the resources are being used in the appropriate way. We know that, a lot of our programs, a lot of our organizations have more capacity to be filled. We know that they can do more. They're asking to do more. It's just where does it need to be directed and finding that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Cole. And
Yeah.
I would just put in a plug that Cole is the director of the Youth Engagement Project, commonly known as YEP, and that is aimed at providing our young people in the community worthwhile, engaging things to do after school before dark, which is the most vulnerable time for risky behaviors, including drug, alcohol, and other risky behaviors. And it's been a very, very long process. We worked out of the Icelandic model for youth drug prevention, and it has arrived at this point in time, and Cole is working hard on that effort and leading that. And Cole, I want to say thank you for all the work you're doing in that. And if you want to plug YEP while you're here, we'd welcome
Oh, I'd love to. Anything to let me talk longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the youth engagement project did existed before I came on board, but I came on board last summer, at the end of the summer. And the last 7-8 months, we've really been working on finding a direction that suits our funding model and is also going to be effective in the population we're trying to serve. So we've got 12 to 18-year-olds that we're looking to impact, so that's middle and high school. I don't know if you guys ever went to middle or high school, but it's two very different groups. Middle school is very different than high school, and serving them both equally is a little bit of a challenge. But you find that they do want to be served. There are things that they want. There are interests that they have that aren't being appropriately tapped, and that's really what we're trying to do. We've got a few different ideas, from community art initiatives to engagement cards. Like, you may be familiar with Franklin County's model. It's a very big model and very well funded. Similar things we're trying to implement here to see if we can cut down on those high risk behaviors and improve the outcomes of our youth population. So if anyone has any questions about that, I of course have cards, and I would love to speak with anyone about that if they have any questions. We're always looking for new opportunities. So.
Judge, thank you, and Cole, thank you, because and Judge and I pre-meet before every fiscal court meeting, and that's a lot of times I get more information than I had going into it as to the specifics, because when I first saw this on the agenda, nonprofit roundtable, I got a little pit in my stomach because I said, oh great, I'm going to get to be the bad guy and say fiscal court can't make charitable contributions or donations.
No, we wouldn't ask for
and
that.
then the judge told me what the presentation and program and plan was, and I commend you, because the court does get hit up a lot.
Sure.
It's a tough no they have to give sometimes for contributions, appropriations that aren't really appropriate under their general power statute. But this is what they can do, and I really appreciate the way you have presented and packaged this and made that request. This is something the fiscal court can do. So again, I think this is an excellent idea. Anything the local governments can do to help coordinate this I thank you for that approach, is the bottom line.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you, Mr.
rather than the one we normally get is, y'all have got a lot of money, can you give us some of that?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, normally all my requests for money are in writing, so I haven't really done too many, just straight ass, so.
And Cole, I wanted to say that, I've heard this from parents for many, many years in Woodford County. They want to see more things for our kids to do. And by my estimation, there are more efforts to provide worthy things for our children to do in this community than ever before. And I think we're moving in the right direction. Your YEP project is a big part of that. And then all of the great work of our local nonprofits. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you again for your time. And we are hoping for a big fall as far as the YEP program is concerned. So please keep your eyes open. If anyone has any interest, please reach out to me. I'd love to have more hands on board.
All right. Thank you, Cole. Yeah, Squire Taylor, you're recognized.
No, I just want to thank you and your partner in crime on this initiative, because as somebody who serves on a couple local nonprofit boards, the professionalism and experience that you all have on the day in and day out side of it is really valuable for those of us that are particularly volunteering on the side. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate you all lending your experience and skills. That goes for the both of you.
I appreciate that. I will. Hopefully she's not watching the live stream, but I will say that most of the experience is on her part. I'm more the muscle. So I appreciate her to no end, and she's taught me a great deal. So I appreciate all of you just as much as I do her. So thank you.
Thank you, Cole.
Right,
thank you to Laurel Hostetter as well, and all the folks in the nonprofit roundtables. I will say that Lily Cox would be very, very appreciative that we were trying to coordinate and communicate, two of her main C's that she emphasizes to me and anybody who will listen every time she talks about our community. So you all are rising to meet that challenge. Thank you. If nothing else has come before this special meeting of the Woodford County Fiscal Court, I will deem it adjourned, and we will reconvene in the Ordinance Committee for a discussion of the in-family conveyance issue that is still before the court. Squire Gill, I'd recognize you to open that discussion.
Thank you, Judge. I just got the email from Squire Gentry proposing that we leave it as is and make it a conditional use. I don't have any problem with it being a conditional use, although I don't think the Board of Adjustments will like that because, and we have to, but we have to send them recommendations because they're going to follow the ordinance. And we're going to have the same problem we've had all along. In all those public meetings and all the people who have come to talk, it will be just the same as it is. So I don't mind adding that as a condition, but I still think we need to send recommendations back to planning and zoning. And even more evidence since our last meeting, Lori Garkovich got up at our last meeting and talked about how excuse me, all of Woodford County, it has karst topography. So it's high limestone, it's prone to sinkholes, to underground streams and rivers, and that porous nature of that rock makes it vulnerable to groundwater contamination. And she brought up Spencer County, who were actually sued because of all the 1-acre lots they had in the county that were contaminating groundwater, and they were forced to install sewers. So in virtually everything outside of the urban service boundary is on septic in Woodford County. So you got karst, you got the potential for groundwater contamination, you have all of Woodford County on septic. And with the 1-acre lots as they stand right now, it's just not adequate for a decent septic field, especially considering the size of houses that are being built today. When this was done 30 years ago, people were building, 2-3-bedroom houses with 1 bathroom. Now people have multiple bathrooms and pools and big houses. So I really think you need more than an acre to accommodate that. We also, most of this is happening in the South End, and we have major water infrastructure problems in the South End. We are all aware of that. And the fire hydrant issue is a big issue too. Chief Montgomery was here. I don't know if he's still here. But anyway, he spoke at the last planning and zoning meeting and talked about the problem with hydrants in the county, and people are saying, well, they have hydrants, but to have a proper hydrant, you need a 6-inch water line, and almost everything in the county is below 6 inches. So you really can't put proper hydrants in. So there's like 127 miles of road on the south end, and there are 40-something hydrants in that area. And so what that does is it affects the ISO rating for the entire county. So you might have a fire hydrant right next to your house in the city, but if it stays the way it is and we keep developing out in the county, that ISO rating is going to hurt the entire county, and everybody's insurance rates are going to go up. Not only that, the fire board had to raise their taxes last year. We're all aware of that because they had to get more trucks to carry the water. They have to invest in because they have to carry the water in. It's not readily available should there be a fire. So those are just some of the new things that have come up. Now, in Woodford County, there are 1,728 lots approved right now. In the last 10 years, outside the urban service boundary, there were 321 building permits. That's 42 in 2024 alone. Outside, and all of those are on septic. Between November of 23 and March of 25, there were 65 new or reconfigured lots, and that was 39 in-family lots, 20 in A4, and 6 in the ag zone. And that is since, and I only bring up that date because that's when they came to us and they requested the moratorium. And we've been told that in the 5 years after in-family conveyance, part of those in-family conveyance lots, they have the conveyed lots and the parent lot, either a conveyed lot or a parent lot were sold. Not all of it, but 78% of the time in 5 years, those are being sold. So people are using that as an investment. Now, I know a lot of them are still lots and nobody's developed, but the ground has been carved up and waiting for a house. It can be done. So I still think we need to send some recommendations to planning and zoning. I think asking them to make that a conditional use on top of that is fine, although I don't know the Board of Adjustments would be very happy about that. And I don't know if we can even direct them to do that. But I would still like to see us with some recommendations. I know at the last meeting, the holdup was the 5 acres. People wanted that, they thought that was too restrictive, even though 5 acres by state law is a farm. But would the fiscal court consider 2 acres? That would at least make an adequate space for a septic field on these big houses that we're building in the county. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Squire Gill. And let me say that, and Squire Gentry, if you want to talk about your recommendation, but I would say, I would clarify, I'm not being argumentative, and I'm not trying to, I agree with your point. I just want to make a clarification that the ISO rating is community specific. So it is not the case necessarily that Versailles will see a higher ISO rating because the county has a lower ISO rating, but the neighborhoods in the county that are not serviced properly by the ISO standards will see higher rates. But for example, the city of Versailles has a higher ISO rating than parts of the county. It's not the same in every individual area. So Woodford County doesn't have one ISO rating. That's what I'm trying to explain.
I understand that, but I talked to Chief Montgomery about that today, and he said if we continue the development in the county the way it is, that ISO rating will affect the city as well. It will affect all of Woodford County. That's not from me, that's from the fire chief. And I don't know if he's out there.
So I think that is a potential if the city of Versailles would not be able to keep its ISO rating to the point where it is. But we do have the chief, the fire chief, and I want to, Chief, we were talking about ISO ratings, and Squire Gill was asking about the potential of development in the south to impact the entire county's ISO rating, if you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, I just heard a little bit about the city ISO rating and the county. They're totally separate. City is a 2, county is a 5, a 5X, and then a 9. Depends on, for us, if you're a 5 is the best rating, you're within 5 miles of a station, and you have a hydrant within 1,000 foot of your home. And then if you're outside of 5 miles of the station and no hydrant, it's a 9. So their city's totally different than anything in the county. When I was speaking with Mary Ann about the hydrants, I just wanted to do the south end of the county where we really struggle with hydrants. And if y'all have the paper in front of you, I gave Mary Ann, but out of 127.72 road miles, I have 39 full-size hydrants. I have 37 bleed-off. The bleed-off don't count for anything. The ISO don't recognize them, so 127 miles, and I have 39 hydrants to depend on, unless I can get close to a pond or a lake or something to draft out of, or a swimming pool. We've drafted out of a swimming pool before. If water's there, we try to get it. But so on that, I give you listed off all the roads that I could think of. It's kind of a last minute thing, but how many hydrants are on it or none, you know. Some roads there's not a hydrant, there's not a bleed off, there's nothing. So, you know, we had to come off of that road to another road to get to, get water. So just in anything development in the county, especially on the south end, really affects us when we try to improve. Yeah. I just ordered a new tanker last month, signed a contract. Another 3,000 gallon tanker is $538,000. It'll be here somewhere between March and April next year if everything goes well. So we're buying bigger trucks to try to accommodate for some water that we don't. Our tankers used to be 1,800 gallon. Well, now we're up to 3,000 gallon tankers on some of these little side roads and narrow roads. And the truck takes up the road. So it's a risk for us when we go out. So just kind of talking to Mary Ann Gill, my thing is just any development going on or anything that when you all look at changing the ordinance or whatever it is, if you'd remember the fire department of, you know, what we're going through, and my thing is daily is to improve on ISO. Anything we do for the fire department is to improve daily, and for the citizens of the county is to, you know, for them to get the best dollar that they're paying us is to try to put back in the community. So that's all I, you know, have to say, I guess, on that. But if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Yeah, and Chief, I want to take the opportunity to again thank you and your team for all that you have done during the flood and the recovery. I want to start out by saying that because you're talking about giving back to the community, and that was a heroic and a monumental effort that you and your team are still engaged in. But what you've done to this point, thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to also follow up on the Chief's point that I've seen and I know have personal knowledge of their efforts to improve ISO ratings across the county wherever they can, and we really appreciate that. And so, Squire Varner, did you have a question for the Chief? Yes, sir.
Chief, thank you, Jeff. Chief, the ISO rating, with all the lots that's in the city, the ISO rating will never change in the city because they're still close to the stations, they're still close to the hydrants. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, they
Going in
should
the
stay
south
the
end.
same because the city, I'm not sure what the exact, I don't know if they're 500 feet hydrant rule, but they have hydrants like every corner. So that's not an issue for them. Every 500 feet, there's a hydrant. So they have water, you know, they're full-time, which we're full-time now, 24/48, and we have volunteers, they have volunteers. So we're kind of going, both of us are on the same page, but they got water, I don't, and that's where ISO looks at is water. You know, I could bring Lexington Fire Department down here, but it wouldn't do us no good because I still have no water. They would get the same rating. There's 600 firefighters in Lexington, but they would get the same rating that we have because there's no water to supply it. So that's my point of, you know.
Any infield, the lots that we have right now that hasn't been built on in the county, when that infills, our ISO rating there is going to go up.
It
And the
depends
city will
on-
probably stay stagnant or flat.
It depends on where it's at. If it's in an area that they run their calculations and say that I cannot supply the water for 20 minutes, it will set us back again. So any development here forward, you know, that could happen. You know, it just depends on the location.
And Chief, there has been, due to your efforts and working with the planning and zoning, to require hydrants in new developments as well, correct?
Yes, and I've got, May of last year to today, I've got 4 hydrants in place, and I probably had to sign a waiver on 10 or more because there's no water lines in the area. And some of those locations, it was perfect spots for it, but it's not there. I hate to hold somebody up on the fire department side to say that they can't do an inlay conveyance or, you know, develop whatever they're doing. I don't feel it should be the fire district's job to hold that up, but at some point, we're gonna have to make that decision that I'm not gonna sign off on something to be recorded, and then it just sits in there on top of a filing cabinet until other actions get taken. But that's the only way to protect our district.
Yeah.
So,
Other questions for the Chief?
I have one more.
You mind if I defer to Squire Gill?
No, that's fine.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Squire Varner?
I know at our Farm Bureau meeting the other night, we had an insurance report, and the folks in the county suffer the increase that everyone gets on insurance plus the ISO rating. And that is, with all the disasters, and we're just going through one here, a devastating disaster, that all rates are going up. I know that State Farm took 25%. So the rates are going up. So I guess my point is, if we can do our part to kind of keep that from going up by slowing some of the lots that until, you know, we get the ISO rating up and we get some and I know you're working hard on some dry
Yeah,
hydrants and other things.
I got a dry hydrant on,
Thank you, Judge.
Oregon Road right now that we're trying to get, I've had the engineers out there, they're doing the survey, I'm waiting on a report back, and hopefully get that in the next couple of months. I mean, it'd be huge down in that area. There's, it's probably half a mile, 3/4 of a mile from the river, but I can't get to the river to draft out of. There's no way to get to it. So this guy's got a pond and he's willing to work with us on getting it put in. So on that, it's about $3,000 for the plumbing, and then the rest of it comes in the road to the drive to it. You have to be able to drive a fire truck up to the PVC pipe that's set there for a connection for the fire department, and that's the next big expense, is trying to get rock and stuff in to get to the pond or lake, whatever you're drafting out of. So I haven't moved forward with the rock portion of the road. It's probably 300 feet that needs to be gravelled until I get the report back to see if it's even doable to put a dry hydrant in. And agricultural something, Logan Stevens is a new guy taking over, and that's who I'm working with on this. And I was gonna see if, like, I know out at the state there on Crossfield, they've got a ton of milling that we could possibly, if they would donate us some, to put in for projects like that. But I haven't moved forward because, to get too far ahead of the game before we know we can even do that.
Thank you, Squire Gill.
Thank you, Judge, for pointing that out. I stand corrected, and thank you for clarifying all that. But I will say that more than half the population of Woodford County lives outside the urban service boundary. And all those people who have homes out there will be affected if we continue to let all this development, small lots out in the county that are not related to agriculture.
The other comment, and any other questions for the fire chief while he's here? Seeing none? Thank you, Chief.
Just for Jackie, I know he's in the Nonsuch area, but anybody that's got a pond or lake that's willing to work with us to be surveyed for that would be huge. I don't know many people down in there the ones that I do know, there's no pond or lake on their property, but if somebody else down there that possibly does that would consider working with us, then, it'd be great to contact me and we can move forward, so.
I'll get to work on it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, in any way we can help as a court chief, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you for your service to Woodford County. Yeah, Squire Brown.
Would help you have one on each road? The
Yes,
ponds,
yeah,
or
any,
as close as you could get them?
yeah, any road that's out there, and a few years back, there was a grant that would cover like the $3,000. The rest of it, you gotta kinda come up with. Also on Oregon Road, the guy that I'm working with actually has equipment to dig it out and do everything, so we don't have to have any equipment or anything like that. So this one, if it goes through, is gonna be fairly cheap, besides the rock. And, Logan from the agriculture, he said that they may be able to find some funding to cover the $3,000. So we may get that part free if we can just get the rock or something donated to us, and it'd be that. But yeah, any road out there, that it would be great to work with anybody that we could get it.
That's one more question. What about the river Cummins Ferry? Can you get down and back into the?
We should be able to draft out of it as long as we can get down there to it.
Okay.
And, 'cause just like Cummins Ferry, from 33 to the river, there's one hydrant, and it sets up under the water tower, and there's no road to the water tower. So if it's been wet or raining or anything, it's off limits. So we gotta come off of Cummins Ferry and find a hydrant somewhere. So that's just distance that we're traveling, trying to explain to you what the hydrants mean to us. It's just a long ways.
One more and I'll quit.
Please.
While Bo's here, Judge, okay to ask Tim if he thinks he can keep that open for them to be able to use?
Sure, let's do that offline, if
Okay.
you don't mind. Just because, so we're veering off the
Yeah.
end family, and we don't have much time, but I will say this, we will work with you, Chief, to help in any way the county can.
All
For
right,
sure.
Thank you.
For sure. And you're more than welcome to be excused or hang out. We only have a few more minutes on this topic, unfortunately, for the committee time. But
All right, thank you.
thank you. Thank you very much. Squire Gentry.
Yes, I need to pull my recommendation as the county attorney brought to my attention that as long as the in-family conveyance is considered a zone change, it won't go before the Board of Adjustments.
All right. So what? Yeah, Mr. County Attorney?
I think to clarify, you still go forward with your recommendation to adopt the text amendment, which I know you were in favor of several meetings ago, and my read of the room was you were one vote away from that happening. Not to say there can't be recommendations. If there's a way to do it where it's not considered a zone change, where the Board of Adjustment can look at it, you can ask that they look at that or consider whether or not that's even an option, and they can immediately dismiss it or go forward with it. But I don't think it should go up with that specific recommendation.
So to clarify, I think that you have a concept that you like to further look into. So I wouldn't say to pull your recommendation, but rather to do additional research and work with the planning director on it.
Yes.
So we do need to get to this public hearing. We've got about 15 minutes, but Squire Gill, you're recognized.
Can I go ahead and make a motion to recommend to the full fiscal court a vote on sending this paragraph to planning and zoning? We've had this before us for 4 months now.
What paragraph is that?
The one on, everybody's got it in front of them. It's a modified version of the motion I made the last time that was tabled.
Yes.
You've got that? I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to strike in-family conveyance and exception lot language and to keep the remaining amendments to Articles 2 and 7, and ask the Planning Commission to add the following special provisions to the in-family conveyance language: that the applicant must be a Woodford County resident, a Woodford County Planning and Zoning approved affidavit must be signed stating that farming is occurring on all parcels. The primary farm parcel may never be reduced below 30 acres. One in-family conveyance for 32 to 49 acres, two for 50 acres and above. The conveyed parcel may not be less than 2 acres, platted with legal frontage touching a platted right-of-way. Both the primary and the conveyed parcels must be held and resided upon for at least 10 years after recordation of the deed conveying the in-family conveyance lot. Exception to this restriction shall be a transfer between the parties to the original in-family conveyance and a forced sale due to judicial action, either death or foreclosure. And it can only be conveyed from a parent to a child, natural or legally adopted, or grandparent to grandchild. These restrictions must be recorded on the plat and set forth in the deed, and the 10-year requirement commences upon recordation of the deed. My motion is that we send that to the Planning Commission.
Your recommendation is to send this to the full fiscal court for adoption to send to the Planning Commission.
Yes.
There's a motion on the table.
Second.
There's a second. Is there further discussion? Squire Carl,
Question. One, I mean,
turn on your mic, please.
this coming forward, I want to know how, your district, Jackie, how do you feel about this?
Well, let me do this. Before we do that, so this is internal in the committee. If the committee's prepared to vote, there's a motion and a second on the floor. We'd vote it up and we'll discuss it in the full fiscal court meeting. I would just say that I think that, I think that this is, I'm not sure there's consensus for it. We haven't had the opportunity to let the public see this, but, it's the fiscal court's decision. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from within the committee?
I will say that if this goes back, and they'll have to have another public hearing. So there will be an opportunity for the public to see this. It will go back to planning. They have to have another public hearing on this.
Yes, that is correct. Squire Gentry?
Clarification, this is only a committee vote, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. This is only a committee vote of the ordinance committee. Are we ready for the vote? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect I voted nay. The motion carries. The ordinance committee is now adjourned, and we move forward to the LGEA public hearing. We call this public hearing to order. The proposed budget hearing regarding proposed use of county road and local government economic assistance, LGEA funds. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Squire Taylor.
Here.
Squire Gentry.
Here.
Squire Varner.
Here.
Squire Carl. Here. Squire Gaddy.
Here.
Squire Blackford. Squire Gill.
Here.
Squire Brown.
Here.
The Woodford County Fiscal Court, pursuant to statute, is holding a public hearing today, 5 p.m. or soon thereafter as can be held for the purpose of obtaining citizen comments regarding the possible uses of county road aid, CRA, and local government economic assistance funds. All interested persons are invited to submit verbal or written comments or comment in this meeting. And you can submit comments to info@woodfordcountyky.gov by mail to the fiscal court at our mailing address, by calling my office, or any other way that you communicate with your magistrates and/or judge executive, including social media comments, messages, and those sort of things. So we had a meeting earlier today to discuss the road department's budget. Their goal is to use the remaining $6,905 and some cents for LGA funds for equipment for the Woodford County Road Department, specifically for items such as chainsaws and weed eaters. And so they plan on spending roughly $6,900 for those items. So I would open up the floor for any public comments regarding the proposed use of those funds. The county road aid funds formulated a list of roads to possibly utilize for the county road aid funding for Hiffner Road, Oregon Road, Shore Acres Road, Fisher's Mill, Delaney Ferry Road, and Harmony Lane. These roads were submitted by the Woodford County Road Department for the potential use for county road aid funds. So we have county road aid and LGEA funds considered as set forth in this required public hearing. Again, this is a routine item of business that we have to have for each budget as mandated by the state. So I would open up the floor for any public comment. And before I do, Mr. County Attorney, I want to say that we went over on our previous committee meeting. The public hearing did not start on time, but there was no member of the public that had attended or wished to speak at that time. So just for the record. It doesn't appear that there are any members of the public here that wish to provide public input, but I will keep the floor open for any public input regarding the proposed use of county road aid funds or local government economic assistance funds. Going once. Seeing no public comments, I'll have a second call for anybody wishing to give a public comment related to CRA or LGEA funds. Going twice. And also seeing no public comments, nor any member of the public in attendance at this moment in time. So I would ask for a third and final call for any of the public wishing to submit comments regarding county road aid funds or LGEA funds. A third and final call for any public comment. Seeing none, the opportunity for public comment has come. It has passed. The Woodford County Fiscal Court has met its requirement for public notice of the budget hearing for same. Seeing no other business to come before this special meeting of the fiscal court for said budget hearing, we are adjourned and we shall reconvene in full fiscal court, regular meeting, 5:30.
It ain't very long.